My absolute favorite group of dinosaurs are the sauropods. They were the biggest and most awe-inspiring dinosaurs to me ever since I touched my very first dinosaur book, this one. And when I discovered models, it was that holy trinity of Apatosaurus, Diplodocus, and Brachiosaurus from Carnegie that were the pride of my little collection for many years. Now, these were big, heavy, and hefty, all the more why I loved them. As the years went by, however, sauropod models got smaller and smaller, so much so that I started to lose interest in buying even good ones, because for many years I was stubbornly sticking to 1:40 of scale. And I know that some of you 1:35 fanatics can relate to this. I still caved at times, however. My favorite sauropod in this beautiful but tiny CollectA Argentinosaurus. And look at this. CollectA can do good paint tabs. And also this marvelous Brontosaurus. It seemed like cost-wise, no company was willing to take a risk on larger sauropod models. We did get some few and far between, such as the Nanmu Watchman Brachiosaurus and the W-Dragon Giraffe Titan, but otherwise, no one seemed to be into producing sauropods in 1:40 of scale on my current favorite 1:35. But this year, something changed. Auspiciously, I ushered in 2023 on my birthday with the 1:35 Era Terra Patago Titan, which is my closest ever to my dream of a 1:35 Argentinosaurus. Ademar Pereira do Nascimento makes these amazing beasts. They are lightweight fiberglass and come in 3 parts so that the shipping is pleasantly reasonable. And I think you can see at a glance why these incredible beasts amaze me. The sheer bulk of them, the immense thickness of the neck, and yet the surprisingly gracile form of the arm and the legs speak to the bizarre beauty of the titanosaur bowplan. Not to mention the detail on this. And to top it all off, the fact that you can do custom paint schemes means I could specify the colors I wanted, making it as perfect as I could hope. And since I published that video, many of you have told me that you placed orders with Ademar and how happy you are. And that makes me happy because I love the idea of showcasing artists who are less well known but deserve more recognition for their love and passion, and then continue to give us even more. I would never have dreamt to have one of the largest titanosaurids in 1:35. And you can really get an idea of the sheer immensity when I put my Wonder Artistic Models humanoid next to it. But that still is rather specialized. More a little into the mainstream, we then had the Rebor Diplodocus. Again, this came in 3 parts, so the box is surprisingly small. And the joining in the seams is actually quite good. What I'm so delighted by is that here is a more mainstream company offering us a classic sauropod and updated with all the common features reconstructed these days. And you have that incredible whip-like tail, those dermal spines. But to top it off, the neck and tail are posable, meaning even if you had 2, they could still look like 2 very different models. Add to that 2 color variants with different heads, and the crazy dream of creating a herd is so near. Now, this is such a very clever decision by Rebor. And as always, you can see the detail that Rebor does so well. This is a company which gives me delight with almost each new offering. And the cherry on top, the 1:35 scale. And here's my humanoid next to it. And if that wasn't enough, I had a near heart attack when another company, the rising Haolonggu, offered the other famous diplodocid, Apatosaurus, and in 1:35. Now this one really shocked me with how beautifully rendered it was. Haolonggu showed with early entrants like the Nasutoceratops that it was serious. But it wasn't really until I saw how they handled this large sauropod without any rough cheats and shortcuts given its large size that proved beyond a shadow of doubt they were throwing down the gauntlet. And look at the fine detail in sculpt and paint application. And offered in its usual 2 variants, I got this more conservative blue one. The thing that really impressed me most was the integument, looking almost too paper thin in some areas. You can see the wonderful musculature and that skin texture, all done with fine detail. And given that the last model I got closest to this was my minuscule CollectA Brontosaurus here, and my last decent sized model, the old Carnegie, you can imagine how happy I was with this. And to think first we had the Rebor Diplodocus, and then now this Haolonggu Apatosaurus, and both in 1:35, just such a triumphant 2023 sauropod-wise. And then Haolonggu decided to sweeten the pot with the very unusual Tyrannosaurus and Diplodocus. As we all know, a trope with Apatosaurus are all those osteoderms, and so we get osteoderms aplenty. You can see how that detail isn't at the expense of the more normal integument throughout the rest of the body. Both the textures and colors are handled really well. This was a sauropod that few of us anticipated, but it was very welcome for those of us who like the genus but haven't had an update since the CollectA Ankylosaurus. Again given to us in 1:35, and you can appreciate the size here. Speaking of CollectA, sometime in September, making its presence felt lest it be forgotten, CollectA joined my party. I acquired the CollectA Ruyangsaurus to add to its previous impressive Marmoncesaurus, but even larger and taller. This seems to be 1/60th scale. The pose is wonderful, showing grace and ponderosity at the same time. It's very dynamic, hinting at potential action. And with all those osteoderms, It could just as well be an Alamosaurus as is usually depicted. Now, I didn't review this one because, ironically enough, even though all these models are made in China, probably because of some contractual agreement, we get it last. After all, our Western viewers get theirs. But I would say that if cost is an issue for you with PNSO or even Haolonggu, then the CollectAs still make a worthy addition that will add power and awe to any sauropod shelf. And now most of you know what a fan of woodkits I am, and specific to dinosaurs, wonder artistic models. These are the best woodkit models for anatomically close skeletals, and I was over the moon when they released their Diplodocus model. Actually, I ordered it as soon as it came out in September, but due to stupidity, I injured my fingers hitting the bag, so I had to wait months before I could get to it. And truly, as I've gushed in my review, the sheer genius with which Simon Alvarez captures various anatomical features are a dream, and how with two-dimensional pieces he captures so much of the three-dimensional volume. And see the anatomical features here, like these fenestrae in the skull, the cervical ribs, the bifurcated spinous processes, and of course that marvelous long whiptail. And the sheer joy as you actually build this up cannot be fully described. And if you display this skeletal right next to the fleshed out reconstruction of the Rebor Diplodocus here, man, what a display this makes. Finally, and most recently, PNSO finally joined the party. Now, PNSO, as we know, had been on an unrelenting theropod spree, and many of us who enjoyed the glory days 2 years ago of constant surprises had all but given up on ever seeing a non-theropod, let alone a sauropod. And yet here, PNSO releases one, and it's a titanosaurid at last. And this is the PNSO Alamosaurus, which, for obvious reasons, are a favorite genus to my American viewers. An elephant in the room, yes, the 1:55 scale was highly disappointing and anticlimactic for a dinosaur that should have just smacked of sheer size and scale. But when I consider how wonderfully that bizarre titanosaurid bow plant has been captured, with those counterintuitive proportions, and especially that crazy thick neck with all its musculature, not to mention the insane detail, this really is one that I couldn't not have. So while 2023 may be for many the year of the interminable theropods, I remember it more positively as the year of the sauropod. I had many personal challenges this year, but I can at least say that 2023 was a very bright spot as the year that made sauropods great again. And I hope that this is a harbinger of great things to come. Haolonggu has already teased more 1-35 sauropods, and I await with bated breath. And indeed, this is such a special year for sauropods that I think for my Christmas and New Year special, I can finally review something I've put off for the longest time, for lack of something to celebrate. We'll maybe see what that is in the next video.